Hello everybody, my name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart, and today we are talking about last minute Valentine ideas. These are handmade, handcrafted Valentine ideas. So if you're scrambling, if you're waiting until the very last minute like me, then maybe you will appreciate this video. So before I get into it, if you like projects like this, videos like this, craft tutorials, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more. Give this video a like if you like this particular video. I would love it if you could either leave a comment or share. My question to you is, are you last minute when it comes to Valentine's Day or the holidays? And if so, how late are you up making your craft projects? My son's Valentine exchange is tomorrow, and even though I have been making lots of Valentines, when it comes right down to the nitty-gritty of packing up these little treat bags and boxes and coming up with a list, and I discover I still need more, so that's what we're doing today. So what you're seeing right now on the screen is one of the things that I've come up with last minute. So let me go through this with you. If you saw my video for the win, let me just show you this. I did this one previously a couple of weeks ago, and I'll link to it if you are interested in seeing this video. Today I'm not going to assemble the box. They're already done, but we are going to be talking about some stamping and some coloring with the Stampin' Blends, and then actually putting our treat boxes together. So if you're interested in seeing the assembly process for this, I would recommend watching this video. But that is from the Best Dressed suite. It's this die right here. Let me show this to you. 2 of these make 1 treat box. So just wanted to give that just a quick mention. So this is the Valentine version. If you have the From My Heart suite or any, Valentine's papers, pink, red papers, you can just see these are just striped, but whether they're specifically for Valentine's Day or not, you could certainly make it work. If you have Valentine's stamps, then you could do that too. This stamp is actually from, and this is one of the things we're going to be working with today, the little Ladybug stamp set. Okay, so it's this little sentiment right here. So we'll get into that in a minute because I was doing some coloring and experimenting, but the other stamp set that we're going to be working with today is the Heartfelt Stamp set, and this is part of that From My Heart suite. So you're going to see a few items from that suite in this demonstration today. So this ribbon, for example, this paper, and these stamps are all part of that suite. The little Ladybug stamp set is a HOSTESS stamp set. If you're a demonstrator, you were able to purchase it during the pre-order. And if you're a hostess, and I believe it's $300, you can get that stamp set for free. So if that's something that you have in your arsenal, then we'll be using that today. But let's start with this project here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about coloring, flowers, Stampin' Blends, when you're getting creative and doing things like that. This is a little candy from a local candy store, Pink House Chocolates, that is in my area. I love this place. It is not a paid promotion or anything like that. I just absolutely love giving out their stuff as gifts, especially for Valentine's Day. You can do this either in or out with your presentation. I did in because I feel like this looks a little bit like a vase when, it's this particular shape, like when it's tucked in. I really like the tucked in look with the flowers. So the concept here was that it is a bouquet in a vase, and then of course presented for Valentine's Day. I chose You're So Sweet instead of Happy Valentine's Day because we have a little candy in there, but just whatever your sentiment is or whatever is going to work for you. So this is the one that we're going to do flowers for today, but we're going to talk a little bit about coloring today. So if you're interested in different coloring ideas with the Stampin' Blends, then definitely stay tuned. Or if you're interested in some last minute treat boxes and what I end up doing in terms of what I'm going to be giving out for Valentine's Day, then stay tuned for that as well. I want to talk to you about coloring. We're going to do some coloring here live in the video today, but I did some coloring ahead of time also, and that's what I wanted to go over with you. So let me just set these aside. We'll talk about the ladybugs in just a minute. Another reason to mention the ladybugs is we have the coordination product release going on right now while supplies last. What that means is when this stamp set came out first, it just was the stamp set. They have since come out with a set of coordinating dies that will cut out these ladybugs. They fit them perfectly, and you can use those in coordination together. So you're going to be seeing things on my Facebook page, just some product information throughout the week about the coordination product release that has just happened. But if you have more questions, then you can definitely leave me a comment as well. I do not have the Ladybug Dies. I wanted to make you aware of them. I myself do not have them, but they are available in the Stampin' Up store. If you are interested, you can click shop now if you're on my Facebook page, or there will be a link in the description that will take you to the Stampin' Up store as well if you're interested in getting those. Okay, so back to coloring. So let's just talk a little bit briefly about the colors. So with the flower, this particular flower is from the Ladybug stamp set. It's this flower right here. Okay, little ladybug. And the color theme that I went with matches the color theme of the From My Heart suite, which is Real Red and Flirty Flamingo. So if you have the inks, you're good to go. Here are the inks. And then I have the Stampin' Blends in those colors. And then my accent color is basic black. Okay, so I was experimenting with different ways that you could color with your blends. And I just wanted to go over that with you to give you some options. So here you'll see this is Flirty Flamingo, light and dark. That's the combo. Okay, so light and dark in Flirty Flamingo, same shade name, different colors, light and dark. And this is Real Red only, light and dark, the combo. Both colors are used for this flower. And on these up here, we have a dark to light using all four colors, so both combos. So it starts from the dark Real Red to the light Real Red to the dark Flirty Flamingo to the light Flirty Flamingo, and then the complete opposite here. I was experimenting a little bit with the basic black light, which is what's used in the center of all of these flowers, and then was just trying to come up with what was making me happiest. So this is something that, just depending on if you like to experiment like this or with colors, or maybe you don't have the time to experiment, so you can kind of use this as a quick reference guide. You can eyeball and see what appeals to you, then you can go straight to doing that particular coloring. Now this, the only difference between these and this is that this one is an example of one that is less blended, and this is an example of one that is more blended, but these are both dark to light. So on the finished product, it ended up being one light to dark and then two dark to lights, very blended. And then here you can see we have a pretty nice range here. So whether you decide to do your solid colored flowers in the light and the dark, or if you just want one basic color, you don't want to get into a certain like look or a technique, you can see here it's just like a light scribble over the lighter color. So the darker tone is what's scribbled and the light color is the base, the one that's all over the flower. It's the same exact thing for Flirty Flamingo. And then with these, instead of it being scribbly, it's more of a circular technique. So we'll go ahead and do some coloring today, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention first. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was coloring the ladybugs. So I did a little bit of color experimentation with these two, just because I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted them to look. And I would have to say, I like them all, but I decided I liked the gray the best in this particular instance, but you could do whatever appeals to you. So the thought behind these was my son, who's 4, watches a lot of cartoons, and it's a lot of kind of like the light, the fun, almost like the human color tones in all of the different color ranges. But for me, the thought that I had in my mind was, should I try to make it look a little bit like a beetle? Should I do kind of like a darker color? Because if you look at the underwings of a real ladybug, it's like a darker color, like a brownish kind of a look. Or did I want it to be a little bit more fun? This is petal pink, and this one is soft suede, and then this is gray granite. And I thought that this one kind of looked the most whimsical. So I think that's why I'm going to do the gray, not that it's accurate. And then regardless of the color that I chose, I gave them all rosy cheeks with the Flirty Flamingo. The other thing that I was experimenting with was Poppy Parade, which is more of an orangey red, and then Real Red, which is more of a blue red. Real Red, of course, is the color that is kind of matching to all of the flowers that I did. But I wanted to see what both looked like. I experimented with the light and with the dark, where you can kind of see the dark is just outlined, and then it's the lighter color that's all filled in. With the little baby bugs, it's mostly just the light. I was experimenting with the Best Dressed stamp, just kind of giving it a little bit more of a flare with some background color there, just trying to decide what I liked. That's Real Red. This is Flirty Flamingo. The sentiments are stamped in Memento Tuxedo black ink, because I was actually coloring with the alcohol markers, the Stampin' Blends, and Memento Tuxedo black ink won't smear or smudge. So you could do whatever works for you. You can even do like fun jewel tones or something like that. But for me, we're going to go with gray. But that was just another thing that I wanted to point out. The other thing is that the way that the original stamp art was designed, it's a little bit of like a squiggle type of a look, where you see some white in the dots. And when I was first coloring these, I can't remember, I think this might have been the very first one that I colored. I kept coloring them in. I took the basic black light and I colored in the entire dot. And then I started experimenting with if the whole dot was black, or if I left it there. This is just the stamped black. There's no coloring on those dots there. You can see that the head was colored with basic black here, but not here. And then on this one, I was kind of finding a happy medium where I was putting just little touches of the basic black, but I was still letting that white, the line art show through from the original stamp art. So you can also decide what works best for you when it comes to the coloring with that too. Those little details really can stand out, but sometimes, you know, you might want it solid, or sometimes you might actually want a color. So I think that's a really good example of the contrast there when it's fully colored in versus not. So just something to keep in mind when you're coloring, but we'll, like I said, we'll do some coloring today. And the color that I'm actually going to use today is the gray granite. Okay, so here is our Memento Tuxedo black ink. Just going to ink up the stamp. we'll do that 2 more times. That extra line won't matter because we're going to cut around, we're going to trim it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one that's all one color. We'll go with Flirty Flamingo we'll use the combo for one. Then we're going to do a light to dark and a dark to light. And this way you'll see my coloring process for each. And then we'll do the stem. The stem is so basic. And again, when it comes to coloring, I'm going to start with the light Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to use this bigger tip side. And I think I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to coloring. There are some very talented colorists out there. But I think I am one of the crafters out there that is very pressed for time. I adore coloring. I am somebody who loves the Stampin' Blend markers. When I first got into this and started doing this, I was actually surprised by how much I liked it. I had forgotten what it was like to just relax and calm down and get back into my hobby again. So I did find this very relaxing and peaceful. And I know that this was picking up steam where it was getting very popular, the coloring again. But I can't spend a lot of time on it, which is one of the reasons why you don't see tons of detail from me all the time when it comes to the Stampin' Blends. The thing that I would say to ask yourself when it comes to coloring and how much time you want to spend on it is the person, the recipient, going to appreciate it? Is that something that they would really love? Is that something that you do need to spend a lot of time on that's really important to you and it will be important to them? Or can you do a quick color, a basic coloring, and that still have that wow effect when you're handing it to someone as a gift? For me, I think that is, absolutely fine. So here is where I wanted to talk about kind of that squiggle. So basically what I was doing was just kind of doing like a little squiggle look here, just kind of following their art, but then kind of doing like a squiggle look. Nothing fancy, just some random squiggling on there. That's with the dark Flirty Flamingo. And then going back in with the light and blending it a little. Okay, so just kind of coloring it out, softening the lines so you can still see them. You're noticing that there's definitely a pattern there, but it's not as intense as the original squiggle. Now, if you want to keep the original squiggle, you can certainly do that. But this will soften it up. That's kind of the point of the alcohol markers, is to get that nice seamless blending. And you would just keep going over it until you reached your desired effect. Okay, and then I only used the light basic black on the center, and I'm using the little bullet tip here. Okay. For the stem, we're going to be using the Call Me Clover combo. I'm going to start with let me start with the dark actually. So with the dark, all I'm doing is kind of a little same thing, a little squiggly. Okay. I'm going to take the light, I'm going to take the little tip here and just blend it a little bit. I wanted a little bit more of a carefree look here. All right, so that's the Flirty Flamingo combo with the Call Me Clover combo for flower number 1. Okay, so for flower number 2, we're gonna go, I can't remember if I said light to dark, but that's what we'll do for the middle one. So light to dark means we're gonna start with the lightest and we're gonna end with the darkest. So I'm gonna do the larger tip side to the center. I always do the very center, like the basic black, last. So the reason for that is so that if I put the basic black in there and then I spent too much time, it might bleed. I don't want it to bleed. So with the darker striking color, I'm going to do that last. I'm going to take the dark Flirty Flamingo and that rounded sort of coloring is what we're going to go for here. Okay. The next thing will be the light Real Red. Okay, you can see it's a little bit thicker on this side than back here because there's more flower up here and a little bit less back here. And then we'll do our Real Red in the dark. Now here I'm going to be a little bit more careful because I'm coming out to the edge of the flowers. One thing to keep in mind if you are new to alcohol markers is that the longer you leave your tip resting on the paper, the more it spreads. So that's why you'll see really light feathery strokes, especially when it comes to the detail part of your coloring. If I were to just leave the tip here, it would bleed outside the line. And I'm trying to avoid that, which is why you see these little feathery strokes. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if you go outside the line. You can always trim it off. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do that little circular motion and just fill in these areas. Okay. This is the less blended look. So if you're going to do less blended, you really kind of like to see that contrast as the colors go out to the edge of the flower, then just leave it there. If you want to see it a little bit more blended, I take my lightest color and I go back in and I just start softening up the lines. Just a little bit, doesn't have to be crazy. I think that both are beautiful. I mean, just honestly, and you know, consider that this is going to be a little bouquet in a treat box, or you could do a bouquet on the front of a card. So it doesn't have to be a masterpiece, of course, unless you really like taking the time to really get it really perfect. And if that is your thing, I absolutely do that. Go for it. For me, just in my life, the way that it is at this moment, I just do not have the time to go and spend tons and tons of time coloring. I wish I did, but if you're busy, you can still get it done. It just might not be perfect. Okay, so this one is dark to light. So we started with the very dark, or I should just say the Real Red dark. And now this is Real Red light. Same exact technique, just in reverse. I'm going to take the dark Flirty Flamingo. I have to say, I kind of really like that less blended look. You'll have to let me know what you think. If you have the time to leave a comment, let me know. Do you like the less blended look or the more blended look? When you're working with the light on the edge, it's so much easier, right? than the dark real red. You have to be really careful. But with this one, not so bad. Okay. All right, and then we'll just go in and we'll do the centers of each flower together. So let's see. The reason why you see me replacing my caps as soon as I'm done using the markers, because they're alcohol markers, so I definitely want to keep those as fresh as long as I can. You do need to replace your alcohol markers after a certain point in time, but if they're well cared for, they will last, you know, they'll last you a pretty long time unless you use one constantly. My gray granites are in desperate need of replacement. My pineapple punch is in desperate need of replacement. So yeah. All right, and then we'll just do both of our stems at the same time too. I'm gonna go back in and same thing. This one, I'm just gonna do, it's less squiggly on this one. So if that matters to you, that you can see the difference. Okay. Just blending that, the dark into the light. I think I'm shaking the camera, and if I am, I apologize. I might edit that out. All right, this one we'll just do light. If you want to see what the stem looks like without any contrast. So if you decide I don't even want a combo, or maybe you haven't purchased a combo, maybe you're just buying the lights, or maybe you're just buying the dark in each shade, then you don't have to worry about blending two colors. And you can see that even just the one is so pretty. It doesn't have to be, you know, complicated or intense. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fussy cut these. Okay, I accidentally knocked over my phone stand, so I apologize if it's in a different position. Okay, so when I was cutting these out, I decided just as part of the look that I was going to leave a white border, that it didn't have to be, you know, perfect, exact, right down to the tip. Another reason for this is because I wanted it to be a little bit sturdier when I taped it onto the treat box. It's standing up a little bit from the top of the treat box, and if you cut this stem down very thin, it's going to be a little on the flimsier side. It's good cardstock. This is the Whisper White cardstock, by the way. And then I'm going to leave a little extra tip down here at the end so that I have a little extra room to play around with the positioning on the inside of the treat box. All right, so what we would do is get our treat box. Okay, and then we would do some positioning with our flowers and kind of see how we like it. And of course, if you want to do 4 would be so beautiful too, wouldn't it? You could do a 4th flower right on here, as big as you want your bouquet to be, or bouquet, whatever, however you pronounce it. And we're just going to tape it, literally tape it onto the inside of the box. Okay, so that is the concept there. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, you do not need double-sided tape for this, so you can just use whatever your regular go-to tape is. Let me just make sure I'm happy with the positioning. I think I'm going to do the 2 darker flowers like lower, and then the lighter flower at the top. I am the type of person who will mess with this. Okay, so this will probably be the most time you'll spend on the card if you're anything like me. All right, I like that arrangement right there. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to tape that down. Just a regular piece of tape there. I moved my flower a little bit, so I am going to fix that. I want you to be able to see that one a little bit more. Okay. All right. I like that much better. Okay, and now we're going to do our sentiment. Okay, so for the sentiment, we're going to be using, this is also a die from Best Dressed, the Best Dressed suite. I think the die set is called Dress to Impress, but I'll flash that up on the screen. I'll give you a little reference there just so that you have it to reference back to if you need it. At one point, the From My Heart suite was on back order. And of course, at this point, if you were to order it, you wouldn't have it in time for Valentine's Day anyway. Like I said, we're definitely working last minute here, but just wanted to mention that. I'm not sure when it'll be back in stock. So we're going to use the You're So Sweet sentiment from the Little Ladybug stamp set. We're using the Real Red ink. We're using, this is Whisper white cardstock cut out with the Dress to Impress die. Just going to stamp this on. Okay, now I'm using the little heart, this cute little heart. This is from the Heartfelt Stamp set, right there, that little image. And we're going to use that with the Flirty Flamingo. Now with this stamp, I noticed that some stamps you barely have to touch it. But this one, I noticed I really had to give it a little bit more pressure to get the look that I wanted. So I just wanted to mention that to you. Okay, so, and of course you could do your hearts in whatever pattern you like, or whatever, whether you're using a punch or a die, again, whatever is in your last minute craft stash. So many different options are going to look great on the front of this. Okay, so the last little touch that I did here, aside from the ribbon, still working on the sentiment, is I put 3 little faceted gems from the From My Heart suite. These are the From My Heart faceted gems. We're going to put these on the project. And of course you can see you kind of get that Flirty Flamingo real red, and it almost looks a little bit more like Very Vanilla on top and Whisper White on the bottom of the gem, but really, really iridescent, pretty, you can see there. Mini Stampin' Dimensionals is what we're going to use. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is tie our ribbon. to adhere the ribbon, I use a little bit of tear and tape, but you could use, you know, the dot adhesive or glue. You definitely have your options, whatever your go-to is for a three-dimensional embellishment like ribbon. I'm just trying to get my loops to a good size that I think will go with the bouquet, just as if we were going to get a bouquet on Valentine's Day. Or now, you know, think Mother's Day, other, you know, birthdays would be really nice for this idea, for this particular one too. Just change your decorations. So that looks pretty good. The other bow's bigger. I'm going to leave it here. We'll just trim our edges. Okay. This is the red, the real red stitched ribbon. So I'm going to use that as my front. And I'm going to take a little bit of the tear and tape. Pop it right onto the knot, the back of the knot. Put it right at the base of our flower stems. Position it however you would like. I like longer tails for this particular project, but if you like the little neat, you know, shorter tails, you could do that too. So here is our little treat box, and it would not be complete without some chocolate. Okay, so we have our solid chocolate hearts. We're just going to pop them right in here. There you go. Now, one thing I did want to show you, the difference between this one and this one is that I did all the panels, all sides, and on this one I only did the front and the back panel. I did not do the sides. So just depending on your time frame, if you want to do less, go with this one. If you like a little bit more detail, you want to fill it out, go ahead with that one. Our next last minute Valentine project, handmade craft projects, we are going to be filling our little tin hearts. This also came from my Heart suite, but just depending on what treat container you have, go ahead and use whatever you have. I'm going to be using these little hearts. We're going to fill them with chocolates. Funny thing, I bought these little mini Play-Dohs that would have fit in here nicely for the kids, and I cannot find them literally anywhere. So we're gonna do candy instead. We're gonna fill them with these foiled milk chocolates. And we're going to be using the Heart doilies. These come in Real Red and Flirty Flamingo as a pack. It's the decorating of the tops that's going to be a little bit different here. So the kits that these are being made for are still learning to read. So sometimes the stamps, you know, depending on what the font is, or if it's too little or too big, or it might be busy, might not be perfect. Like something like MVP is really perfect for kids who are learning their, you know, their letters, or they're learning to read. But in this case, I'm actually just going to do a heart and a ladybug. And then of course, if you would want to add a sentiment, you know, you're cute as a bug, you could certainly do that too. That would be very, very cute with this treat box as well. But we're going to do the ladybugs for this one. And I think that that's going to be perfect for several preschoolers.